Hello. Today we're going to be looking at outside broadcasting. With the help of some professionals, we're going to be answering the questions: what is an outside broadcast? Who is involved in outside broadcasting? And what does it all mean? Firstly, what is an outside broadcast? The definition of an outside broadcast is the production of a television or radio program from outside of the studio. Outside broadcasts are most commonly used for covering news, live sport or live music events. Now that we know what an outside broadcast is, we can look into what goes into making it all work. So what is involved in an outside broadcast? As an outside broadcast is filmed externally outside of a TV studio, a mobile production gallery is needed for the gallery crew to produce the show from. This is known as an outside broadcast truck and come in all shapes and sizes depending on the size of the production. In order to transmit the output program back to the main TV station, an SNG truck is needed. This sends the signal via a satellite to the MCR in the TV station. Then the program is then sent to TX before being sent back to MCR. Here it is uplinked and broadcast by the satellites on the roof. The signal is then downlinked at people's homes where it can be watched on the TV. So now we've covered the basic signal path of an outside broadcast, let's get some deeper insight and hear from some professionals. So what is an SNG truck?
Well, SNG stands for Satellite News Gathering, and that means a way of getting the news and broadcasting it over satellite back to a studio. And it was devised so people could go to breaking news stories and be able to get the audio and video information back to the studio as fast as possible. The purpose of an SNG truck is to take signal from a camera or an outside broadcast truck and be able to deliver that signal onto a satellite. And that signal will be audio and video. So it comes into this truck and we use the various equipment behind me to monitor the signal, and then we send it into our satellite encoders, which turn that baseband video and audio signal into an RF signal, which is then sent out through some big amplifiers and through the antenna on the roof. From here that signal goes to somewhere like an MCR, a master control room, with earth station dishes, the big dishes, and that will pull the signal down, and then that signal will be back in its original baseband state, so the original audio and video that came out of a camera or an outside broadcasting truck.
So as John said, the signal is sent from the SNG truck from on top of the antenna on the roof to the MCR back at the TV station. So now let's ask another professional, what happens in the MCR?
So this is the MCR, or main control room, and this room has the responsibility for managing all the feeds that come in and out of the building. Every piece of pictures and sound and footage is managed here. The people who work here, such as myself, we are actually doing things such as tuning in satellite feeds, making recordings onto tape, onto disc, and preparing programs and break items for broadcast. The output of the transmission suite comes through this room where I said all the feeds are managed, and then it gets sent out of the building and to a third party, for example, such as Arqiva in Winchester, who will then uplink that onto satellite. For a viewer at home, for example, somebody with Sky, they will then be downlinking those pictures from the satellite that have been uplinked by the broadcaster.
As Gideon said, the MCR is one of the most important buildings in the whole broadcasting process as it downlinks and uplinks signals. Before it can be broadcasted, however, the signal has to be sent to TX.
Standing by with the 109 break.
TX is just an abbreviation for transmission, and it is here in the transmission suite that the commercial breaks and extra graphics are added to the program. A TX operator has the important job of communicating with a lot of people and ensuring that programs run on and off air as scheduled. So the output of the transmission suite goes back to the MCR, where it is broadcasted by the satellites. So that's all the technical stuff out of the way. But what about how does a TV program get produced? Let's talk to our final professional, a producer at British Eurosport in London, who can help us answer our final question. What are the roles and responsibilities of a TV producer?
Right. The producer basically is the person that's in charge of the entire show. So that will be the start of the show, content of the show, the editorial line of the show. Then you've got the gallery here, so there's a range of people here. You'd have a graphics operator for all the graphics that come in, but that'll just be sort of name straps telling people who they are. Then there'll be a person called a PA, and they keep time of the show. So the show, you'll have half an hour at the top, so they'll have a range of stopwatches. So they have a stopwatch for the total duration of the show, for the whole half hour. Then I have a stopwatch on each individual section of the show. So they're just informing you all the time. You know, she'll talk to the TX operator for breaks, how long the breaks are, when we're going to breaks. She'll inform the presenter all the time. Presenter's got an earpiece in all the time, so he can hear her all the time. Then the director will look after all the cameras and also the running of the VT. So, you know, the next item up may be an interview with, you know, Andy Murray. So he'll sort of run that in, and so then mix in between via the mixing desk behind me. And then behind the scenes, you'll have people, you know, editors upstairs who are making the packages. You'll have a range of sort of assistant producers, they're called. So they'll be looking after making those packages. They may have gone out and done some filming. You as a producer would talk to them about what's expected from that interview, what you're trying to say within your studio, how that interview is going to sit within the studio. So they'll go out and they'll have a range of questions. So all these little things you've got to think about as a producer and as an assistant producer.
As you can see, there are a lot of people needed to make a TV show. One person Tim forgot to mention is the sound engineer. They sit in a soundproof room separate from the rest of the gallery crew and are responsible for microphone levels, sound effects, and music throughout the show. So there you have it, the basics of an outside broadcast. Let's recap over some of the points we've learnt today. The definition of an outside broadcast is the production of a television or radio program from outside of the studio. It is most commonly used when covering news stories or live sports and music events. In order for a successful outside broadcast, there needs to be an outside broadcast truck for the gallery crew. This crew will consist of a producer who manages the running of the show, a director who manages the cameras and shots, a PA who keeps the timings, a graphics operator who makes name straps, and a sound engineer who ensures all sound is okay. Also needed is an S&G truck for uplinking the signal, a generator to power the trucks, an MCR in the TV station to downlink and uplink signals, and a transmission suite so the commercials and graphics can be added. Well, that's it for today. Thanks to our 3 professionals for their insight on the subject. We'll see you next time.